Welcome back to the shop, my friends. Steve here at SKS Props, and recently I showed how to fully paint and weather a Fallout NCR Ranger helmet. And if you have not watched this video yet, I highly recommend it because it's one of the best painting and weathering tutorials that I have on my channel. But I figured for those people that are wanting to do a complete cosplay, I could go ahead and make the chest armor as well. And if you would like to make your own, I have free PDFs available for this over on my website that you can download to build right along with the video. Just like all the rest of my foam builds, this is made completely out of my HD foam, which you can find over at Blick Art Materials. And if you appreciate these videos, you appreciate the free templates, by all means go through the links that are in the description section and those that are on the website and pick up some HD foam. Now, if you can tell, this is more than just a foam fabrication. This is an extensive painting tutorial as well because I wanted to match that authentic look that I'd put into the helmet. And the thing that's great about that is that even if you're not building this specific chest piece, you can use all these tips and tutorials on future builds as well. So I want to show you what it takes to put this chest armor together and paint it. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start this build with part A, which is going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. Make sure to note the dart on the side as well as the lines on the back. To match more updated look of the chest piece, these lines are going to help create angles in the armor. I'm going to slice this line about halfway through the foam using a well-sharpened hobby blade. Then I'm going to remove material on one side with a smooth sanding drum on my rotary tool. This is going to help create a seamless fold in the foam. Weldwood contact cement can now be applied to the cuts on the back as well as the dart on the side. After the contact cement has been allowed to dry, these can be pressed together. Not that I'm really worried, but to help reinforce these cuts, I'm going to put a small bead of Surebond or hot glue along the back. Part B is going to make up the armor section directly below the chest, and this is also going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. This piece will also have slices on the back to mirror the angles from the chest armor above. Despite just giving it an angled look, these slices in the foam better help it to conform and wrap around the body. Part C is going to make up the armor plate for the middle of the stomach. This is also going to be traced and cut out of 6mm foam. And just like the angles on the armor pieces above, this is also going to have some material removed from the back side. Now, because of the curve, this angle is a little bit trickier to achieve, so just go slow when sanding away the foam and gluing the gap together. Part D will make up armor sections on either side of this central plate. These are also going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. And just like Part C, they also have slight curves to the removed foam on the back. But you can see when they're all together how this angle bridges across the various plates. Part E is going to make up the outside edge of the stomach area. This is also going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. These pieces will also have slight angles on the edges to help it better conform. The neck guard is going to be made up of part F, and this piece is going to be traced and cut out of some 10mm foam. Two things to note: make sure to mark your slices on the back side, and the bottom of this piece needs to be cut back at a 30-degree angle. And notice how I remove material on the inside of the cut so the outside edges fold in. With all of the armor pieces assembled, I can now start to join them together, and I'm going to do that by attaching the upper sections to part G. This template piece is going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. Using the thinner foam for the backing allows these pieces to better conform. And notice how the outside edges of part A are glued onto part G while the foam is rounded. This is going to help wrap it around my chest. Using a small spacer, I marked approximately 1/4 of an inch down from part A. Visually, this is going to help me line up part B so that I have a more uniform look. Part F can now attach to the upper section, and you can see how those angles cut into the bottom are very important for the overall look. With Part F in place, I can now cut away the additional foam that is not needed. Part H is going to attach all the armor for the stomach, and this is also going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. Just as I had done with the upper section, I also try to mark placement here, so that all my armor pieces can fit where they need to. Part C can now be glued to the middle of the armor set, and I would recommend to start at the top and then work your way down the sides. This will help you control the overall curvature of the front. And you can see here how the bottom two pieces of Part H kind of come together. Using a pencil, I can now mark placement on either side for Part D. The gaps in between the armor sections don't have to be perfect, but I definitely want the spacing to be the same on either side. The two Part E pieces can now be glued to the outside edge of the armor, and I'm still gluing these outside edges into place while the foam is slightly curved. Just like the top, any additional foam on the bottom section can now be trimmed away. Part I is going to make up where the straps will attach, and there are going to be 6 of these. All of them will need to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. 2 of these are going to attach to the top of the armor, 2 will be glued to the outside edges of Part A, and the final 2 will be glued to the outside edges of Part E. You can always reference the video to see where I placed mine, but feel free to change these positions if you find something else more comfortable for you. The adjustable straps will be made up of 1-inch nylon webbing as well as some tri-glides and parachute clips. Small sections of nylon can be cut and glued together around 1/2 of the parachute clip. These are then going to be glued to the back side of the armor at the top. And to make sure they don't pull away, I'm using a double adhesive method of hot glue and super glue, as well as an additional 2mm foam strip that's glued on top. To attach the straps, I'm first going to cut through the 2 Part I pieces on either side. Then I can press the nylon through and glue it to the back side. These straps are going to crisscross across the back and then attach to the parachute clips on the opposite side. For the stomach section, I'll have 1 strap that will wrap around the small of the back. Just like the top, a small bit of the webbing is cut for one side of the parachute clip. This will be fed through the foam and then glued into place. The other strip can then be glued to the opposite side. Now, of course, all of these strips are going to need to be cut to fit you, so if you've got a fabric ruler, that's the best way to do it. And by using the parachute clips and the tri-glides, all of these straps can be adjustable. Just make sure that you've got more material than what you're going to need. To make it look as though these straps are placed functionally, I'm going to use some resin cast bits. These pieces are going to be sanded flush and then can be super glued at each one of the strap connection points. You could also use googly eyes or small bits of foam for this part as well. Before I prime and paint, I'm going to add some battle damage, and I like to sketch out approximate placement. That way when I'm using my rotary tool, I don't have to think too much, and I already have an idea of the material I need to remove. Switching up to a stone bit, this gives me finer cuts into the foam. You could also use a chisel bit on a heat tool for this process. The foam at this point is fairly smooth, so to give it some texture, I'm going to be doing the tinfoil technique. This consists of heating up the foam with my heat gun, and then pressing some balled up tinfoil into the surface to emboss it. As long as you don't apply additional heat, these textures will remain. And remember, when you're heating or sanding foam or using paints and primers, always wear your respirator. With the fabrication of the armor complete, I can now take it outside to apply a couple light coats of Plasti-Dip, as well as a dusting of Rust-Oleum Metallic. When applying spray paint, you never want to add too much because it can crack. After the paint had dried, I can then apply a wash to the entire piece using some Liquitex Mars Black. Additional paint could be taken away with a damp paper towel, and I did go back and apply more Mars Black down into the gaps. To get that authentic metallic sheen to match the helmet that I painted, I'm going to be using more graphite powder. And remember, this stuff gets everywhere and it's very dirty, so make sure to put down your paper and wear gloves. After the graphite powder had been applied with a shop rag, I can then buff the surface to get a good metallic sheen. But it looks a little too new, so I'm going to knock it back with some Dirty Down Rust aging spray. While I allow this to completely dry, I'm going to cut out the stencils that I had made in Photoshop. Of course, you could use a Cricut to help speed this up, but I decided to cut it out by hand just to show you that it was possible. With my chest stencil cut out, I can now tape it into place. And to get the weathered look that I'm after, I'm going to be dabbing the surface with an upholstery foam sponge. This is how I get the titanium white to look worn and weathered. And for any areas that might have a little bit of bleed, I can go ahead and remove that paint with a damp brush. This painting process could then be repeated for the fist on the opposite side. Another cool trick is while the paint is still wet, use a damp paper towel and scratch down through the surface. Now the Dirty Down is great, but it does have a glossy sheen to it. So to give some of my dirt and corrosion a matte look, I'm going to be using some Liquitex Heavy Body Burnt Sienna. This pigment can be painted on using a mop brush or detail brushes, and any additional paint that's on there can be removed using a damp paper towel. But this is where the metallics and the mattes play off of each other and just give the piece a more visually interesting look. In some of the deeper damage and grooves, I added some Dirty Down Rust Concentrate. This stuff also looks great when it's thinned out with water to give you some authentic grimy colors. In between all of the combat armor, the helmet, this chest piece, I'm really excited to see Fallout cosplays at conventions over the next several years. And if you are using any of my templates or painting tutorials, be sure to tag me on Instagram because I love seeing your creations. And like I always say, build your best with the best. HD Foam.